What's the move? We lead our boys through it.
This has been one of my most anticipated series for 2024. The makers and executive producers and creators of The Pacific and Band of Brothers. If you like those, you're probably going to be on board straight away. But I'm here to talk about kind of what the differences are between those, what makes this story good or worse. But I can't sit here in good conscience and say, if you want to go into this completely fresh, not hearing about the ideas. Obviously, I do know spoilers, but I'm just going to say up front, this is a masterpiece of work. And if that's all you needed to know, then I'm not going to kind of beg for the timing of watching on a video on a YouTube because some random dude. All I'm here is I'm saying this is a masterpiece of work. And if you want to go it completely fresh, then go for it. Come back afterwards and listen to my review and see if you think that is worth your time. But if you don't mind me talking about it, kind of helping you understand what you're in for without spoilers, then let's jump in. This is an Apple original series from Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks and Gary Goetzman, the producers of Band of Brothers and The Pacific. During World War II, airmen risked their lives with the 100th Bomb Group, a brotherhood forged by courage, loss and triumph. There's too many great actors to name that are showcased in this series. Every episode is like almost like a feature-length episode. The first episode is like an hour and 10 minutes, the last one's an hour and 17, and in between those we range like 50 to an hour. The timing doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, even though it's only 9 episodes, it's about 10, similar to what we've had in the previous installments where the Pacific and the Band of Brothers are 10. You are in here for a big chunk. Now the only thing I disagree with how Apple are doing this is that for me, when I watched the Band of Brothers and the Pacific, I watched them as like an experience. I think I watched mine over a couple of days, half and half. For me, that would be the best way to watch this. Now, I was privileged enough to have all the screeners and watch them over 2 days, and that was the best way for me to experience this. I can't believe how agonizing this story would be. Even though those episodes are long and chunky, you really want to know what happens next. I really hope that people don't forget to come back each week, that they don't put this out to pasture before it's had its due, for people to understand how great this series is. Now, as it's called Masters of the Air, you're gonna get a lot of flying filming here, and I was a little bit worried that we weren't, even though it was called Masters of the Air and the trailer depicts bits of those kind of action, the dogfights, the big bombers in the sky. You know, you can wonder like how much of the budget is it going to be so much drama on ground, and then it's going to be a few of those missions going up over air and doing what they need to do and showcasing what happened during that time with the 100th in World War II. Thankfully, there's almost equal, if not more, time in the sky. And what is showcased there, how it puts you in the seat of a gunner or a pilot. And because they spend so much time with each of the characters, when people die, and they inevitably are going to die, you really feel it. You kind of love every character. There's enough time given or moments to make those characters real for you. So real that it places you like you're a passenger on those planes, and when one goes down, it hits you in the stomach like a gut punch. It's trademark expert storytelling when you have the tempo, the tone between the editing of telling a story that's given it enough time to give your characters real life feelings and nuances. That is everything that you get in human, and the actors portray that so well that you forget they're acting. When you get moments like that and you're completely absorbed that you have to rush to put on to the next episode because you don't want to be taken out of that experience, that is what I'm talking about here. The mood that I was in after I'd watched all 9 episodes shifted. My wife had to ask me like, are you alright? What's wrong with you? And I was like, this is just it's kind of a melancholy, me thinking about everything I experienced, and if that's what it's like, because there's so many things that you kind of take for granted of what it was like in war, especially when you see the kind of flying moments and what they go through. But there's so many intricacies of moments in this show on the planes, of things that I didn't think about, like how do you actually get out of the plane when you need to bail out. We see so many now of in this series that I totally get it, but it's much harder than you think of. Everything that they go through and that they do, your daily life experiences, like how do you pee in a plane without a toilet, and suddenly a condom comes to mind. You're like, of course, there are things that they would use in daily life just to get by while they're doing life, but in war, in the sky, in a big sort of metal tin can that was about as strong as a metal tin can. So when somebody comes and shreds them, you're just like, oh, they're hoping that their guardian angel is, working today so they can deflect some of those bullets. That's the sort of experience that you're getting here. Now, when it comes from the creative minds of, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and some of the other greats, it's not just how it's handled with the camera and the cinematography and the score and editing that's done so well, but you have to have those characters mean something. And like I mentioned, there are so many characters in this series that are great. For me, there's a couple of standouts, and it's obviously why they were cast. You have Austin Butler, who plays Major Gail Buck Cleven, and you have Callan Turner, who plays Major John Bucky Egan. It's their kind of story through the years of World War II, their sort of partnership that starts us towards the journey that we go on, and then introduces us to a number of other characters, their groups that they're looking after, and the toll that it takes as they spend more time on missions, as we see other characters introduced and disappeared, and some that we think are main protagonists. Like, when you're watching a movie or TV series, like, they're a main protagonist, they're not going to die. That's not the realism that they've gone for here, because it is World War II. So some of the atrocities that we see, that we know about, when you're showed visually in moments like this, and it's spread out over 9 hours, you really do get to be in that zone and think about probably some things that are right and just to think about. But it's also absolutely a wonderful adventure, and the meaning of what it takes to be a hero during that time is very different, I imagine, to what people's ideas of what a hero actually is. What you are willing to do and sacrifice to protect those you love when stuff is happening that is unjust, to leave your own land and go ahead and put your own life on the line. And literally your death rate was probably 80% or higher, because there was nothing to protect you. They didn't have the mechanics or the armor that we have today. They were going up there, just in the sky, hoping that they'll be able to drop their bombs and survive it. Now, there were a couple of moments in the story where we're introduced to other groups, other flying groups, and I'd say their storyline was the least told. We get to know a little bit about it. There are moments in the last couple of episodes that were told, and I just felt like that we could have had more of that, or not had them in. It was the inclusion of it that just felt like that extra episode maybe making its 10 incomplete. I would have liked a little bit more, because it just kind of felt a little bit thrust in there. But as a complete experience, this is absolutely a master work. From storytelling, acting, cinematography, there are character moments in this that felt like gut punches, joyous moments that they're having together, a reprieve from the depression or the fighting, only for them to go in again or be called up once again because they thought their missions were over, to be brought back into it again. Everybody you get to see showcased from the ground up. So there's storylines that are not just in the air, but also the consequences of what happens when you get shot down, what happens after that. And some of the story takes a different role that I wasn't expecting, but is equally as entertaining in a horrific way. It's not a horror, but it is a thriller, but it is depressing in places, because this sort of stuff happened. But at the same time, this is a series I definitely would watch again, especially with my dad and my brothers. Let me know if you're a lady, if you've watched Band of Brothers and The Pacific, how much did you enjoy it? I often talk to men about this, and it's like, yeah, we're mad, men love war and stuff, but I don't think that's just the case just for men. So if you love these series, just let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Are you excited about this? I, for one, struggling not to give it a 5, but I'm going to give it a 4.75 Nicolas Cage out of
You got one.
5. Almost perfect. I still class it as a master work. I would still give Band of Brothers a 5 and The Pacific probably 4.5. So that's kind of where I rank those. Let me know your ranking. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to me kind of gush about how expertly this has been crafted. I definitely suggest watching this in 2 parts if you can. Most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.